Hi, so I'm gonna explain a little bit about my comic strip and kind of how I interpreted cognitive development theory and zone of proximal development. So first, in the right here, if you can see my cursor, it's the first panel, and it's Piaget on the brain, and he's saying, "Hi, I'm going to be explaining my comic strip, and each panel as to it explains my understanding and interpretation of cognitive development theory and zone of proximal development theory." So right here, if you can see my cursors in the first panel, it has Vygotsky and Piaget just chilling on the brain. Vygotsky's letting us know he's going to be explaining to us the zone of proximal development, and Piaget is going to be explaining to us the theory of cognitive development. So right here, we're going to start off with Piaget's cognitive development. They're at a museum. A little girl's looking at this skeleton of a dinosaur. She thinks it's a kangaroo. The man is thinking, like, why is she thinking that it's a kangaroo? Like, I don't understand. So in this panel, it's demonstrating a variety of things. It's demonstrating genetic epistemology, which is the origins of thinking. So Piaget kind of thought of this as his, how do I say this? This was kind of the baseline to his cognitive development theory. He thought back to why children think the way they do. Genetics is a scientific study of where things come from, and epistemology is the basic category of thinking. So it's kind of the origins of thinking. So when you put it together, that's what genetic epistemology is. And then also too, in this panel, it's assimilation. The little girl is showing her schema. Sorry, I have my notes right here. She's showing her schema, which is a mental representation of the world for what she understands, and she responds to situations. So maybe she's been encountered with a raccoon, or sorry, not a raccoon, a kangaroo. So as she sees it, the skeleton of the T-Rex, she's using a simulation saying, well, a kangaroo has short arms, it has a tail, it's a little bit hunched, it has longer legs, so it must be a kangaroo. So that's the second panel. We already see the genetic epistemology. We see schema happening. We see simulation. Then we move to the third panel, where accommodation is occurring, and also equilibration. So the man's saying, like, no, sweetie, it's not a kangaroo, it's a dinosaur. And the girl's like, oh, okay, a dinosaur. So now when the girl sees the skeleton of the T-Rex, she won't think it's a kangaroo anymore. She will accommodate it and change her schema and think of it as a dinosaur, which is what it is. And also equilibration. It's a force that moves the development along. So it occurs when a child's schemas can deal with most information through simulation. So this is kind of the equilibration happening along with the accommodation. So those top two are Piaget's cognitive developmental theory. And it continues to these bottom two right here, if you can see where my cursor is. He also came up with the stages of development. So in the first one, I don't know if you can see right here, the tiny one, it's a baby. So it's sensory motor. It's from ages from birth to 2 years old. And this is kind of where object permanence happens. Knowing that there's an object without seeing it. Even though it's hidden, they know it's there. They start to develop it little by little. The next stage, which is ages from 2 to 7, is pre-operational stage. This is when they start thinking symbolically. So making one thing stand for another other than its intended purpose or intended self. We see that a lot in elementary school. They go along with the simulation and accommodation. They simulate something to its original meaning, and then they could accommodate it to having a symbolic meaning. Then we move on to concrete operational stage, which is ages 7 to 11. And then this stage is when a child can work things out intentionally in their head, beginning logical and operational thoughts. So they can think instead of physically working it out. So let's say there's a puzzle that needs to fit. Instead of grabbing the puzzle and trying it, moving, they can look at the puzzle and they can think, okay, I see the shape is, let's see, it has some 2 corners. Let me look around to see what shape has 2 corners instead of grabbing one and grabbing, let's say, a circular shape and trying to fit it in. So the last stage is formal operational stage, which is ages 11 and up. So this is a stage where they develop the ability to think about abstract concepts and logically test hypotheses. So we see this more kind of in the teenage stage, high school, going into high school. And then, so that sums up Piaget's cognitive development theory. The last one, it's very small. Yeah, it's very small. But I honestly think this one panel demonstrates Vygotsky's zone of proximal development clearly. So basically the zone of proximal development, it's the distance between the actual development that's occurring and is determined by its intended problem. So let's say the child, like as you can see, the little girl right here. Let's pretend there's some blocks. I couldn't get some blocks in there. So she's trying to stack blocks and blocks and blocks, or she's trying to build a building and she can't. She's frustrated. She's in that zone of proximal development. She's almost there, but not quite yet. So in order to get her there, that is when scaffolding occurs. It's a teaching method that enables students to solve a problem. So it's kind of gradually guiding them and helping them and encouraging them, not doing it for them, but kind of leading them and pushing them until they're able to do it independently. This also occurs when they do it with the knowledgeable other person, such as a teacher. Then they have a better understanding and higher ability level to help them. Also, knowledge through social interaction. Instead of doing it by themselves and trying by themselves and getting frustrated and not knowing, they interact socially and they get that help. Some effects of scaffolding is gaining and maintaining the learner's interest in the task, also making the task simple, such as building blocks instead of building, let's say, a farm or a castle. So emphasizing certain aspects that will help the solution, control the child's level of frustration, also by encouragement, and demonstrate the task. Some reciprocal learning teaching that's also used there is to improve students' ability to learn from the text. So teachers and students collaborate in learning. And then the last one is collaborative learning, suggests that group members should help different levels. So they have different levels. So this could be a group right here, the little girl and the teacher. The teacher's level is definitely higher and more advanced than the little girl. So right here, the teacher is saying, great choice choosing that yellow block. It's already helping them, encouraging them with positivity, which makes them want to keep going, saying like, okay, I'm doing something right. And then the teacher's also scaffolding by saying, well, you can try stacking the yellow block on top of the blue block. So by giving her that guidance, the little girl grabs the yellow block, stacks it on top of the blue block, and then saying, nice, you did it. So now that she did that few steps, she's able to continue the action, and therefore she meets that development. So this is basically it. It's not really a story, like a full-on set story, but when I thought, as I was reading the articles and getting the read words and their definitions, this is definitely what came to mind, and this is the way I associate it and my understanding of it. So I hope this helps and you guys are able to see visually like I am understanding. Thank you.